Hi everyone, this is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here to introduce my weekend reading vlog. So it's Dewey's 24-hour readathon today, and I'm not officially participating in that event, but I am trying to read at least 12 hours this weekend. So I figured it'd be a good time to do a reading vlog and also to insert a bunch of the footage I've been collecting this month for sort of fall in Maine. Speaking of which, notice my orange get up here this morning as I take my morning walk, and that is because it's hunting season here in Maine. I live in rural Maine, as you guys know, and I live on a dirt road. So when I want to take my walks this time of year, I make sure that I'm very brightly colored so there's no question about who I am or who the dog is. So yes, that's what we're doing this morning, and it's quite bright out, so I apologize for that. And yeah, so I'm just gonna walk and listen to my audiobook, and I will check in with you in a while and let you know what else I'm reading this weekend. Homemade apple butter in the crock pot, made with wild apples. Yum! Fall is the best. This baby's got to cook in the slow cooker for 12 hours today, so you know my house is going to be smelling awesome. I wish I had smell-o-vision. Okay, so here are the books that I want to get to this weekend in my little weekend readathon here. And I would just want to thank Doris for talking with me about doing this and helping me think about how to organize myself and motivate myself. And so I have a list in my bullet journal where I'm sort of keeping track of what I'm doing. And my goal is 12 hours of reading, and my goal is also to complete a bunch of the books that I'm currently reading in order to get them cleared off my shelves. So the first thing that I want to do is finish Macbeth, which I'm reading with Emily. I only have one act left in this one, so I'll be finishing this one up hopefully this morning. I also need to finish Celestial Bodies. I think I have like 140 pages left to read in this one because I need to return it back to the library tomorrow. So got to get to that one. And I want to get caught up on my buddy read of Ducks Newburyport. So I have like 160 pages to get caught up to my buddies. But that shouldn't be any problem either. I want to finish my audiobook of Animal Farm for Gone with the Book, which I have like an hour left to go, so that shouldn't be any issue. And then I want to start and read about the first 100 pages of Mapp and Lucia. I think that's by E.F. Benson, which I'm also wanting to read for Gone with the Book. And then the last thing, if I get to it, I think that's it. Yes, that's it for my books that are currently on the go, except for this beast, The Outsider by Stephen King. You can see that's where I'm at right now. And I don't have any page goals on this one. I just want to read it. My fear is that if I pick up the Stephen King, that none of the rest of this stuff will get done until I finish the Stephen King, because I sat down with it the other night and read 100 pages and had to force myself to put it down because I knew if I didn't, I would be up all night reading, and I am too old for that kind of behavior anymore. So yeah, I want to read in my Stephen King book, but I'm not quite sure how much I'll get done with that. So that's what my plan is. So I'll be checking in with you throughout the weekend to tell you how I get on. So I just wanted to check in here. This is Saturday afternoon, and I've gotten quite a bit accomplished. Pretty productive day so far. So the first thing I finished was Macbeth. I finished this and checked in with my buddy Emily. And so this is only the third Shakespeare play that I've ever read, and I really enjoyed this. It's excellent for this time of year. It's quite atmospheric and has, of course, the witches, and so it's got some scenes that make sense for this time of year with the witches. And I am just amazed. This was quite a short play, and I am amazed at how much Shakespeare packs in about human nature in this very short amount of time. And he has a lot to say here about ambition and guilt and loyalty, which I think is really cool. I did find that sometimes I felt that the acts, or I should say the scenes within the acts, because there's 5 acts in this play, jumped around quite quickly, and it felt like there was missing pieces, sort of the connective tissue of the story was missing. And then I read a little textual note at the end that said something about how the king at the time of England, that he would have maybe been writing this play for, or putting together the materials for a performance for this king, didn't like long plays, and so maybe that's why, and maybe the play was edited to make it shorter for that purpose. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about Shakespeare really, and I haven't studied this, so I just felt that it was a little choppy in places without that sort of explanatory text in between some of the actions that happened. But all in all, I really enjoyed it, and was glad that I had read it. And then I also, excuse me for the extreme close-up, I also finished Animal Farm, which I was listening to on audio, but I have this really nice hardcover copy that I picked up a few years ago, which has the quote, of course, on the front of, "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others." And of course, this is a reread for me. I had read this originally like when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, and enjoyed it at that time, but I got a lot more out of it now, of course, being older and living in the times that we're currently living in. I will say that it was interesting to me, having just read 1984 last month, how many sort of phrases and ideas matched up between Animal Farm and 1984. There's quite a bit of overlap, I think. Whereas 1984 is absolutely, a straightforward dystopia about the dangers of fascism and sort of following blindly the leadership of your political system. This is, of course, an allegory where the animals sort of mimic humans in setting up a government and a political system on this farm. But I still think Orwell has a lot of really good knowledge and thinking to impart on the dangers of authoritarianism and totalitarianism, and this book actually goes down even easier than 1984 does. It's just a pleasure and a joy to read. It's so good. So I definitely highly recommend, and it's really, really slim, so you can finish it quickly. I think the audiobook's only like 3 hours and 15 minutes long in its entirety. So those two are the two that I've finished. I have done reading in this. I've read about 95 pages in this so far today, and I've read a little bit of the first chapter in Mapp and Lucia, and I've read like 50 more pages in Celestial Bodies. So doing good, making good progress. I'm really pleased at my efforts so far today. Let me see if I can see how many hours I've actually read. I have my little handy dandy notes here, which I can't turn the page. What is wrong? So it looks like I've read 4.5 hours already today. Whew, pretty good, Heidi. I'm impressed with myself. So that's just it for now. I am going to, I think, get up and maybe take another walk with the dog just to get some fresh air and get the dog moving, and then settle back in for some more reading. finished another book. I finished Celestial Bodies, and this one has to go back to the library. So I'm in the car because I'm going to take this back to the library. It's due today, and go to the grocery store and run a couple other errands. And I just wanted to check in with my thoughts about this book before I return it to the library. So this is a story of three sisters. It takes place in Oman, and this is a work in translation by a female from Oman. And so I have mixed feelings about this book. I think it's very interesting. I was interested in Oman. I don't know anything about Oman. I did not know that they had, a history of slave ownership and slavery being completely normal in their country. And so we're following these three young women, these three sisters, and basically their lives, their marriages, their relationships, but also in amongst their stories, we're following generations of their family, both past and present, and from different points of view. So there's an omniscient narrator, and then there's some first-person narratives that are happening. And I found this very difficult to basically figure out what was going on most of the time. The narration goes back and forth in time, and it could happen between paragraphs. And you never know for sure who's speaking from whose point of view you're seeing the story, or sometimes it's very difficult to know from whose point of view you're seeing the story. And even the first person narrative, which is the husband of one of the women who has the first person narrative, his timeline is all over the place when he's telling a story. So I found that very difficult. But on the other hand, I liked sort of the cultural themes, and there's a lot about superstitions and cultural traditions that take place in Oman that I enjoyed. And I very much liked when we were in the three sisters and each of their different perspectives. I very much wanted to know more about what they thought, as Oman is going through tremendous cultural change and becoming more westernized. And of course they're, young ladies who, they've grown up in a traditional sort of upper class family, but now they're starting to break away from sort of the traditional roles that women have in this country. So I liked all of that, but I just found it a struggle to sort of keep up with who was speaking and whose point of view I was following, because the chapters are super short. So you just sort of get used to one perspective, and then you're thrown right into other perspectives. And it's not always the actual characters in the family that you're following. Sometimes it's legends or other stories. There's not just the sisters and the parents and sort of the grandparents that you're following. It's also the slaves that were part of the family, and their perspectives. And it's kind of hard to keep track of everybody, especially because there's some similar names or some generations that were named for previous generations, and so you never know which generation you're dealing with for a while, and then finally after you read on, you kind of know. You're able to place by other things that are in the scenery around you. So I can't give this my wholehearted recommendation, but I did find it super interesting, and I am glad I read it. So that's that. And now I'm going to take it back to the library and hope that somebody else finds it and enjoys reading it. So I've just been in the library, and even though I promised myself I would not take anything out because I want to read from my shelves in November, I took out something. No surprise, really. This is Trick Mirror by Tolentino, Reflections on Self-Delusion, an essay collection that's just recently come out. And I've heard a couple people talk about it on their channels, and it sounded like something good that I could fit in amongst my other nonfiction reading in November. So that kind of I just filmed my nonfiction November TBR earlier today. It hasn't even been posted yet, and I'm already changing it up. What can I say? I just wanted to wrap up this reading vlog. It is the end of the day on Sunday, and I do apologize for the lighting, but I just want to have some closing remarks. I feel pretty good about what I've accomplished this weekend with my little weekend reading readathon, and I had a list of things that I wanted to get done, and I've completed them all, so I feel very accomplished. I did read for 12 hours, and it's going on 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I have family supper tonight with my family, and so I may not get any more reading done, but I at least finished 12 hours during the weekend, and I completed 3 books, and I caught up in my buddy read with Ducks Newburyport, so I've read up to today, and I read today's portion of the book. I am on the last less than 200 pages to go, and just still loving this book. Just think it's just really great. And I was able to get some reading done in The Outsiders. I have actually about 100 pages left to go in this one, and I think if I get any more reading time tonight, I probably will focus on that. I also started today on my walk. I started a new audiobook. I am rereading Olive Kitteridge. And in fact, I think I have my paper copy of it right over here. So let's check that out. Yes, I do. So this Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. I read this quite a few years ago when it first came out, and I really love it. And she has a sequel to this coming out, or has already come out, I guess, Olive Again, and I really want to read that, but I wanted to reread Olive Kitteridge first before I got to that. And so I was able to get it on audio, on Scribd, and I started listening to that today, and I probably listened to about almost an hour of that, and it's so good. I cried in the first chapter on the reread. So yeah, excellent book. So highly successful reading weekend, caught up on everything that I needed to catch up on, and feel really good about where I am for October, and feel excited to go into Nonfiction November with pretty much a clean slate. So that is where I'm at. I hope that you enjoyed this vlog and all the clips of scenery and whatnot they weren't all from this weekend. They were from various times during the month of October, and I just figured I'd slot them in here with the rest of this reading vlog, and I hope you enjoyed them. I'll talk to you later.